John, does a great story have to be angst-ridden and dark to be considered a great piece of art?
Not at all. I think that that is one of the great misconceptions, that in order to reach the level of greatness, it has to be very dark or have a very down ending, or a fatalistic ending and so on. I think this has never been true. Certainly in popular storytelling, we're much more likely to have the happy ending. But what is much more important is, does the story play out the way it should within its own parameters? Is it telling the story the right way? And if that means a happy ending because of what has happened leading up to that ending, then that's what it should be. If it's a dark ending, but it's justified that in the way that the story was written leading up to it, how the character was created, the weakness that the character had at the beginning, if that leads to a fatal ending, then that's the way that story has to be done. I always tell writers, you can definitely have a popular script with an unhappy ending if the character earned it. If the character earns it, then even though it doesn't end up happy, the character was not successful, it is right for that particular character, and that's much more important for the audience, to have that internal logic work.
Does that still apply to television storytelling?
In television, again, we go back to that fundamental distinction between the standalone show and the serial show. The standalone show is almost always going to have that happy ending. On occasion, we will get a detective story where the criminal gets off and we have this tragic ending, but that happens very rarely, because part of the reason that the audience comes to a standalone show is the solution. They want that sense of accomplishment that they get, and they know they're going to get every week. When you go into a serial, you're much more likely to have not necessarily a negative ending, because in a serial, that's part of the point, is there is no real ending. So, and because you have many more characters in a serial than you have in a standalone show, some of your characters will be on an up and others will be on the down. And there it's much more likely that you will have down endings, for example, at the end of a season, as opposed to in a particular episode. Because when we're talking about a season, we're dealing in major arcs, and one of the things that you do as the showrunner and as the staff writers is right at the very beginning of the season, when you chart it out on the board, which characters are going to end up with an up arc and which are going to end with a down arc. And you want to figure that out and interweave that over the course of the entire season.